It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That is brand new Michael Sweet solo. That's right. He's not with Stryper on this one. It's called One-Sided War, and the name of that tune is probably a tune that I find the most interesting on this new disc. It's called One Way Up, and a guy that's always on his way up is lead vocalist of Stryper, solo artist, producer, guitarist, you name it, this guy does it all. The one and only Michael Sweet. Welcome back to the Classic Metal Show there, Michael.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. The only thing I don't do is what a drummer I've worked with does, Brian Tishy. I don't do the bags, the boxing, the bags, whatever you call that. He does that. I don't do that.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Michael, you've been on the Classic Metal Show many times over the last many years. We're into our 20th year here, and I want to remind you of something before we even get started. We lost an icon in music and metal actually late last year, Lemmy, and you were the first one that I ever asked the question, how has Lemmy influenced your career? And that question was something we asked every interview that we've done since you. You were the very first guy we tested that out on, and it became a staple on the Classic Metal Show. And I believe that was way back in 2004 when Stryper came back with their live release.
Yeah, man. I mean, Lemmy's influenced everybody. You know, when you go back that far, and, you know, our forefathers who started metal, Black Sabbath, and bands like, of course, Zeppelin, and then you move into bands like Priest, and of course Motorhead. I mean, we wouldn't be here talking if it wasn't for those guys.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Mike.
So, and then my only opportunity to actually sit and talk with Lemmy was overseas, and we sat in a bar for a while, and he was a sweetheart. He really was.
And that's almost the exact same story you told when I asked you that question about 12 years ago. So.
Yeah, man. And that's what I was blown away by. That one time that I sat and talked to him was just how normal he was. He was just really humble and soft-spoken. I mean, he had his opinion, of course, on everything, but he was just a great guy.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Michael, you've had a long, storied career, obviously, as the front man of Stryper. But, I mean, you have put out a ton of music on your own as a solo artist. And this new one, One-Sided War, is a very straightforward, just heavy rock record. I mean, not that your others haven't, but I noticed that, and the only word that I can come up for this CD is big. It has a very big sound, and I know that you're a producer and you do a lot of work with other artists, but was that the intention, or is that just how it came out?
Well, something I wanted to do with this album is, of course, make sure that it was 100% Michael Sweet. I have at least I hope, I have a signature sound, and I kind of go for certain types of structures of songs and melodies and whatnot. But I also wanted to try some different things and step outside the box and really bring in, I don't want to say the jam factor, but bring in the musicianship, bring that back to the table. And I told everybody, I told Will, I told John, the bass player, I told Ethan, I told Joe, I said, go for it. Just go for it. Don't play it safe. Don't just do eighth notes. Don't just do a 2/4 groove. Really go for it. And so they did. Will gave me lots of fills and parts, and the bass player did, and the guitar player did, and I think that helped to build a really incredible energy on this album. When you listen to this album, it is not lacking any energy whatsoever. And I'm really proud of that. I love that. That reminds me of the albums in the old days that I used to listen to, going back to Deep Purple, Priest, Van Halen. Those albums had energy, and everyone was just ripping. And that's what I wanted to do on this album.
Sure. Well, I think you've accomplished that. I was going to say, I was thinking about, some of the things I'd like to address with you prior to the interview. And one of them is, if this record was released in the 80s, this would have been big. I mean, it is definitely one of those shred fest albums, as you said, high energy. I noticed that it's very drum heavy. And
it is.
Yeah, it is. I notice a lot of the tracks start off very, with a heavy drum fill to kick the song off, and that seems to be a formula with this CD. So, was that something you thought about?
Absolutely. I mean, I programmed when I wrote the songs. I used a drum program on my computer, and I kind of set that up for Will to hear, Will Hunt, and get an idea of what I was looking for, and then Will took it from there. But again, as I just said 3 minutes ago, it was important to me to not think about the norm or to play it safe. So in other words, playing it safe would have been boom, ba, boom, 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 starting a song like that, or pa-pa-pa, boom, dun, dun, dun. But instead, if Will did a I'm like, yes. And he's like, you sure that's not too much? No, perfect.
It's kind of like Ozzy's Over the Mountain.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates an instant wow factor. You hear that and you go, oh, whoa, what's that? And I just wanted everything to be 100% and everyone to shine. The drums shine just as much as the guitars shine and vice versa. And I wanted that. It was important to me. Usually with albums, rock albums, certain things really shine, like the singer or the guitar player or the songs or what have you, but then the other stuff just kind of blends in. On this album, that's not the case.
Well, I agree. And there's a lot of separation in the tracks. You can definitely, each instrument or, each contributor to the music kind of stands out, in their own little segment of the song, I guess. So there's
right.
Good separation in the tracks. Now, you produced this, I'm assuming, yes?
I did. I produced it. I've been producing for a long time. I produced the last solo album. I produced the last Sweet and Lynch album. I produced the last 4 Stryper albums. And I co-produced all the Stryper albums from day one. So I love producing. I grew up in a studio. I just don't have the name as a producer because, I just never went out and started producing other bands. I feel that if I had done that back in the 80s, I certainly could be an established producer.
Sure.
But I love producing, man. I know how to get tones. I know what I want. I don't need to spend $100,000 on a named producer to give me what I want.
Right.
I can do that on my own.
Well, I actually heard that about you. A close personal friend of mine is Veronica Freeman, who I know you worked with, and she told me you drove her to tears because you wanted a certain thing out of her that you believed she was capable of, putting out there, and you wouldn't accept anything less than that.
It's funny about that. Honestly, it's not that I don't remember. I remember definitely, because when I work with anybody, I'm nice, but I go in there and I'm very serious, and they'll say, is that good enough? And I'll say, no, we can do better. And they'll say, really? And I'll say, yeah, absolutely. And then we'll do it 3, 4, 5 more times, and then they'll admit and say, wow, that is a lot better.
Sure, and that's exactly what she said. But she said, that guy had me in tears. I was giving it all I had, and I thought I was giving it all I had, and he said, not good enough. What's wrong with you? This is what you need to do.
I tell you, if she was in tears, she hid it from me because I didn't see her crying. But maybe she was. Who knows?
Sure, absolutely.
But I did go in there and try to get the best out of her. That's for sure.
And
absolutely.
She did say that. That is absolutely the word she used as well. So
yeah, and that's what producing is all about. You don't have to be mean in the process. I don't know if you saw that. There was a special on Vince Neil. And he was making a single, and he was working with Desmond Child. And Desmond was producing him. And Vince was singing like Vince sings, and he couldn't get the melody or get it in key. And Desmond was just saying, no, it's not good. And then Vince would start singing again, and Desmond would say, God, no. And he was being pretty brutal. And this went on and on and on. and he just couldn't get it. And I'll never forget. I remember Desmond just kind of bordering on being pretty mean. But then I thought, that's what a lot of producers do, man.
Sure, absolutely.
They get it out of you. They pull it out of you. They got to twist and turn you and break you and stretch you and try to get the best out of you.
Sure. Now, who are some of the producers you look up to there, Michael? Is somebody like a Bo Hill or a Tom Weirman or a Neil Kernan or, anybody like that?
I never worked with Bo. Our paths crossed many times, but I certainly am very familiar with the stuff that he's produced, and I always thought he was a great producer, absolutely, with Warrant and Rat and all kinds of really cool stuff. Tom Weirman I did work with. He produced our Against the Law album, and Tom was a pro. He was absolutely a pro. I mean, he certainly, as a lot of producers do, relied heavily on his engineer. At the time, it was Eddie Delana. And Eddie really brought a lot to the table. In other words, what I'm trying to say is if Tom didn't have Eddie, it wouldn't have been the same.
Sure.
I mean, Eddie played an equal role and an equal part to Tom. And then we brought a lot to the table. We had all the songs ready and written, and all the parts worked out, and all they had to do was just record us.
Sure.
So and then we worked with Michael Wagner, who is obviously a legendary hard rock metal producer. And
right.
I think Michael is one of my favorite producers to work with because he pulled the best out of you, but in a very positive way. You wanted to give him the best. You weren't doing it out of anger. Because he was being cruel or mean and making you do it 1,000 times. You were doing it because you wanted to, because he was just smiling constantly from ear to ear. And every track and every take you did, he would always say, "That's incredible. That was amazing. Let's do it again."
Very nice.
That's how he did things.
Sure.
Always real positive, and man, he was the guitar master. He's one of those producers that's on all his albums has always gotten incredible guitar tones. I think that's what he's really known for.
Sure.
So he was a joy to work with. Who else have we worked with in terms of producer? We worked with Stefan Gelfast, and that was a bit of a nightmare. I talk about that in my book. That record really seemed like it was going to be a disaster. To Hell with the Devil, our biggest album. And it wound up miraculously being salvaged. And not only being salvaged, but going on to be our biggest selling album and our most popular album.
Sure.
But a lot of the things that took place on the making of that album was just ridiculous.
Right. Yep, I'm sure.
And that would be a whole other interview for me to go into that.
Absolutely.
But I've worked with a lot of producers, man, and a lot of engineers. And right now, for the past 10 years, actually 11 years, I've been working with a guy, an engineer by the name of Danny Bernini. And he used to work at the Hit Factory.
Okay, in New York.
He was a head engineer at the Hit Factory and also a head engineer at Longview. Okay. Longview has since closed, but he's a great engineer, one of the best I've ever worked with. A musician, incredible person. He's just amazing. And I produce the albums, and he engineers them. And we're a tag team, man. I couldn't do it without Danny, and it's just a great team, and I love it. And we recorded at a place called Spirit House, and we've done all the albums, including Sweet and Lynch, all the way back to 2006 or 7 at Spirit House.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Michael, obviously you've churned out quite a few solo releases next to your, Stryper release, and I got to ask you, as a musician and a producer and somebody who's been in the music business for 30 plus years, at this point with music, the state of music as it is, with downloads being the way that music is delivered, and with everybody stealing music off the internet and whatnot, what is the point of making a full record anymore?
Well, if you're looking at it from that point of view, there's no point. But I don't ever look at it from that point of view. I look at it from the point of view that I love music, and I love to create and record and produce music.
Sure.
It's as simple as that. If I didn't make a dime doing it, I'd still do it.
Right. Okay, well, that's fair enough. You have a passion for it, and you do something that doesn't necessarily benefit you monetarily, but it's an outlet for you that you enjoy and appreciate, regardless if you get a dime from it or not.
Yeah, I love it. I really do love it. And at this point, I mean, I do still get paid to do it. Not a lot. You know, if we get $100,000 as an example to go do an album, which is a lot these days.
It is
a lot of people get
days.
that. If we get $100,000, I might be able to put 8 to 10 of that in my pocket, if that. So for 2 to 3 months of my time, day in and day out. So, it's not like we're getting rich here.
Sure.
By no means. But, that's not why I do it. I go in there with a joy in my heart and a smile on my face every day. I'm the first one in and the last one out, and I still love it. I still love to do it, man. And I hope I always do until I go.
Excellent. Well, Michael, I know our time is short, but your new CD is out on Rat Pack Records, which is a big supporter of this style of music, and the name of the CD is called One-Sided War. So what's the impetus behind the title?
Well, the title came from a lot of the stuff you see online where people are fighting and it's kind of one-sided. Like one guy starts a war and the other guys are going, what just happened? And he's continuing on with it. And you're just kind of scratching your head saying to yourself, wow. So that kind of gave me the inspiration to write the lyric. And then obviously it applies to family, to neighbors. In this world, there's a lot of times when, the war doesn't have to keep going. People keep firing their bullets and pulling out their weapons when it's a simple solution.
Sure.
That's that particular song. I got a song called Radio. It's kind of poking fun at the rock guys that go to Nashville and try to become country guys.
Steven Tyler?
Well, you said it.
I did say it.
And it's, not that there's anything wrong with that we live in America, everyone has the freedom to try to do that. But
sure.
it's still kind of funny.
Right.
And if you reverse that, just think for a second, if country guys started coming to metal and trying to be metalheads. I mean, people would laugh them off the stage.
Right.
It's a lifestyle. You don't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to go country.
Right. Unless you're Ron Keel.
Well, I love Ron Keel, but not even if you're Ron Keel. You just don't. It doesn't work that way.
Sure.
It's in your blood. It's a lifestyle. It's and the people that live it and that grew up in it are proud of that. And that applies to metal, that applies to rock, that applies to country. I don't care what genre you're talking about. You shouldn't be able to just do that.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm the only guy that thinks this. I don't know.
Well, maybe we'll talk to Bret Michaels and find out his thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, obviously we don't really need to because Bret Michaels tried it and it failed. So, I mean, we don't really need to talk to him about it.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, he probably doesn't want to talk about it, you know?
Right, absolutely. Well, Michael, there's so many other things I'd like to talk to you about, but, I'm going to be respectful of the short time that you have here, and you're always welcome back on the Classic Metal Show anytime and talk about whatever you'd like. And I know you got this 30th anniversary tour coming up here with Stryper, and
we do, yep.
And I'd like to have you come back on and talk about that. So maybe we'll, set you up and we'll talk more when you got more time. But
I'd love to, man. Anytime. I would love to anytime.
Because we got the most interesting questions here.
You do, and you know what? It's funny because I'm the kind of guy that I like to talk about things, and I'll be very honest with you. And sometimes that comes across as me being a bit of an a-hole, and I don't mean it that way at all. I just want to give you the truth and what's in my heart and mind, and I love it, man. I love being asked the tough questions.
Absolutely. All right, well, the new Michael Sweet solo release is on Rat Pack Records. It's called One-Sided War. It's due out on August 26th, so go pick that thing up if you're a a Stryper Michael Sweet fan, and go check them out when they're on the road, because they're going to be on the road throughout the fall and into the new year. So go check them out. And Michael, you got a personal website?
I got michaelsweet.com. I've got Facebook, which is facebook.com/the Michael Sweet, the Michael Sweet. And then I've got, Twitter and Periscope and Instagram and all that stuff. So.
Excellent. All right, Michael. Well, we always let the artist pick a song from the new release to take us out of the interview. So what should we play off your new disc?
Man, I would say let's play the song and video that's coming out tomorrow, and which applies to what I just described. Rock guys going to Nashville and trying to be country guys. It's called Radio, and it's a really cool song. We've got Joel Hoekstra on it. We've got Will Hunt on it. In the video, we've got Scotty Coogan and Todd Kearns and Joel Hoekstra, and it's a fun video, and it's a funny video. It really is.
Excellent. All right, well, here it is. This is something brand new from Michael Sweet from his latest release called One-Sided War, and this is called Radio, exclusively here on your Classic Metal Show.